In this video, we're going to cover 8 tips to stay motivated as a musician. It's very rare for anyone to just form a band and blow up on their first release. It can take hundreds of hours of songwriting sessions and gigging before you finally get that break. So from the point in actually starting your band to getting millions of streams on Spotify and selling out gigs, you've actually got quite a long journey ahead of you, filled with setbacks, self-doubt, disagreements within the band. So there's going to be times where you're just not feeling yourself or even want to quit. So today we're going to cover 8 tips on how to stay motivated through all of that. Tip number 1 is actually falling in love with the everyday rather than looking at the big picture and dreaming of the big ambitious stuff. Best-selling author Mark Manson in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck actually says that focusing on the big picture and idolizing people who are in the position that you dream to be in can actually reinforce the idea in your head that that is what you are not, and it actually demotivates you and makes you feel bad about yourself. Rather than focusing on the fame and the money and selling out stadiums, you should actually be focusing on the everyday and fall in love with that. And then once you do, you've already won. You're already successful in your own eyes. So there's no pressure anymore. You can actually just do what you love every single day. And that's a dream position to be in for anybody. And what you'll find is that you'll have a shift in mindset. You'll stop making music for other people trying to have a hit or trying to be popular, and you'll start making music for yourself. And if people happen to like it, then it's an added bonus. I think this is best displayed in the Kurt Cobain documentary, The Montage of Heck. You can actually see that Cobain doesn't really care about the fame or the money. He just wants to make his art and he wants to get it out there. And if people happen to like it, then fantastic. If they don't like it, he will just keep making it, and that's what makes him happy. Tip number 2 is stick to a routine. A routine is so important for performance-based work. For example, you should designate one area for your songwriting and rehearsals. For example, your bedroom or the garage or a friend's living room, and nothing else should happen there apart from songwriting and rehearsals, and you'll find that you perform at your peak there. And similarly, you should dedicate the same time of day or day of the week for your creative process. That strong habit that you formed will push you through when you're not really feeling like getting creative or working. It's just a strong habit that you formed, and it will push you through those setbacks or feeling of no motivation. Tip number 3 is perspective. It's only human nature to want more and want to push for the next thing. But actually, you should reflect on what you've achieved so far and appreciate the small accomplishments that you've made. To keep your perspective, you need to establish how are you measuring your success. Is it through Spotify streams? Is it Instagram followers? How many tickets you've sold to your gig? Or is it simply how many songs you've written this month? Everyone's got their own definition of success, and you need to find yours. Tip number 4 is don't wait for motivation to come to you. Often people think that motivation is something that you possess and it comes and goes. Maybe you've watched a YouTube video by a motivational speaker or seen a quote being shared on Facebook that's motivated you. However, have you ever found that you've had the surge of motivation of feeling empowered, only for 30 seconds later to just feel demotivated again, go back to your previous state of mind? Some days you'll have a bad songwriting session, other days you'll have a good one. But the real way to unleash your creativity is actually just to keep showing up each and every single day of every songwriting session once you've built up that routine. And that's when one day you'll just have that spark of genius and create the next big hit. And don't beat yourself up too hard if you have a bad songwriting session. These are gonna happen all of the time. If you beat yourself up every single time you have a bad session, you're gonna send yourself into a constant low. And that brings me on to tip number 5. It's okay to fail. No one's ever been successful without having failures and setbacks. And don't expect yourself to produce a masterpiece every single time. Often when we think about our journey to success, all we ever really think about is the accomplishments. We never account for the failures and the setbacks, and we don't mentally prepare ourselves for that. But it's so important, just as much as focusing on the accomplishments. Because once you accept that you are going to have setbacks, when that actually happens, it doesn't hit you that hard because you planned for this. It's part of the journey, and you just move on very quickly. And once you accept this, there's just so much pressure off you. And then you might start experimenting with new things because you're not scared of failure anymore. And you might actually create something that you never thought you'd ever have created before. Tip number 6 is stop caring what other people think of you. I actually first got this advice when I booked my driving test at the age of 17. I was told, don't tell anybody you've actually got your test, because all it actually achieves is adding more pressure on you, because you know at the end of your test, people are going to be asking you, well, did you pass? And when artists start a band, the first thing that they do is tell all of their friends that we've started a band and we're going to be the biggest band in the world. But likewise, it achieves nothing. All it actually does is put more pressure on you, and also they're not going to be fans and supporters of your music because they like the music. It's because you are their friend. So you actually want to try and find fans who are going to be fans for the music, and they're the people who are really going to share your music video release after release. And if you've told all of your friends that you've started a band, it's going to be the biggest band in the world, then you've already received that level of gratification. So when you release your music and everyone likes it, then you're not going to feel like an accomplishment, and you're not going to have that same motivation. It's a bit like that friend who joins the gym, buys all of the clothes and the equipment, and tells everybody that they're going to be doing it every single day, and they never go because they've already had that reward of telling people that they've accomplished something. You should really be keeping it to yourself and really just be working hard behind the scenes. This will help you make sure you are making long-term and sustainable decisions for your band, instead of trying to play catch up with another band. And especially if you have a hit and it's your strategy and you've made music for yourself, that means you'll be able to make another hit because you know where that came from. Tip number 7 is don't compare yourself to other artists. Everyone is on their own journey and schedule. So if you look at a band and they're moving much quicker than you, then you'll let it demotivate you. What you actually want to do is look at other artists for sources of inspiration for your own work. This will help you make sure you are making long-term and sustainable decisions for your band, instead of trying to play catch up with another band. And especially if you have a hit and it's your strategy and you've made music for yourself, that means you'll be able to make another hit because you know where that came from. And finally, tip number 8 is to meet up with artists who are at a similar level to you. It can actually be beneficial because success comes in cycles, so you can keep each other motivated while you're on your journey. So it's important to find like-minded people who you can share your successes with. And maybe if they're struggling, you can motivate them and they'll do the same for you. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.